A forest green pickup sat skewed to the wind line, half buried to the wheel wells. The storm had shaved the road into a white, shifting wall. A few hundred yards under a white pine, a .30-06 casing winked dull gold in the brief sun between squalls. December 19th, 1972, near Mack Lake, Huron National Forest, outside Grayling, Michigan, until DNA finally broke the silence and gave investigators a name to chase. Block 1. Route and Final Scene. Route and Clock, 2 tracks. Harold Hal Carter, 42, and Thomas Tom Reed, 38, leave Grayling on December 15th for a winter hunt in the Huron National Forest. Men who usually read weather like a clock. By ritual, Hal calls home by 8 p.m. on the second night. On December 16th, the phone stays silent. Through December 18th, winds push around 40 miles per hour. Snowfall stacks about 3 inches per hour, and air temperatures plunge to about -26 to -28 degrees Celsius, -15 to -18 degrees Fahrenheit, a whiteout that erases prints in minutes, not hours. Vehicle scene tableau. On December 19th, a search convoy reaches the Mack Lake access. Hal's forest green Chevrolet pickup sits about 1/2 mile shy of the planned trailhead, nose canted offline as if stopped mid-decision, doors unlocked, out of character for cautious hunters. Inside, licenses laid on the dash per regs, topo maps missing. In back, 2 sleeping bags, a camp stove, and food for several days, all unused. Rifles aren't in the truck, which fits if the men went on foot, but 2 items that never stay behind are Hal's rangefinder and Tom's compass. The placement reads methodical and wrong at the same time. Found, not found. Scene density. Found, physical. A .30-06 shell casing 200 yards northeast beneath a white pine. Extraction marks sharp enough to look recent. Gear in the bed rolled and tarped. No heat signs on the stove. Found, context. Licenses on the dash. The truck's position well short of the trailhead. Storm parameters that compress search viability. Wives cross-calling when the 8 p.m. check-in fails. Not found, a repair posture. No hood up, no chain out. A field dress site or blood drag. A one-direction boot trail that survives drift. Or any logic for parking here given Hal's scouted plan. Witness pulse. Grayling's morning crowd saw the pair at Murphy's Diner on the 15th. Calm, confident, routine. Through the storm's second day, sporadic shots are reported by far-flung hunters, but drifting snow and wind shear destroy directionality. Nothing firm anchors time or place. What does anchor is the wives' alarm. No call by 8 p.m., a ritual never missed. The first twist, ordinary versus facts. If this were simply weather plus experience, the truck would be parked properly, maps in hand, and the compass rangefinder on the men, not in the cab. If it were mechanical, we'd see tools and hood up before a retreat. If it were a quick camp, the stove would tell on heat and use. Instead, the tableau looks placed under lethal weather. Doors unlocked, maps gone, essentials left behind, and a single, fresh-looking casing far too near the truck for the route they'd planned. The ordinary reads crooked here. Surface, illumination, environment. 4 feet of base with drifts up to 8 feet, approximately 1.2 to 2.4 meters, wind-carved lanes, and flat winter light. In those conditions, scenting fails, and even clear prints vanish inside 10 to 20 minutes. Visibility is a strobe, openings of sky, then blind white. Any on-scene decisions had to live fast. Immediate response. At first light on the 19th, 12 searchers assemble. Snowmobiles stage at Mack Lake. Grid lines widen to 6 square miles by afternoon. A deputy bags the .30-06 casing, maps its position, and expands the local sweep for blood sign, brass, and boot logic. Helicopters fly when ceiling allows. Canines struggle. The storm has buried scent. By nightfall, the only hard anchors are an oddly placed truck, unused gear, and a single cartridge case that says recent without saying what. Working window. Minutes, not hours. Missed 8 p.m. check-in. December 16th starts the clock. But the staging near the truck lives in minute-scale slivers. The men park, something happens within 3 to 15 minutes, and the storm erases the ground story. Every later hour belongs to survival math. The actionable window sits in those few minutes between the truck's odd angle and the drift's first clean pass. A brass mouth under a pine speaking louder than the road-buried truck. Grid stakes and laminated maps spread over a hood. In two warm kitchens, phones stare back at wives who can recite the sound of boots that did not return. Block 2. Assumptions versus evidence. Whiteout disorientation. Weather did it. What we would expect. Men keep compass plus rangefinder on body. Prints that drift but at least begin in a coherent line. A move toward known cover. Timber strip, lee slope, with a rough bearing held across about 5 to 10 minutes before tracks vanish. What we have, the compass and rangefinder were left in the cab. No initial boot logic survives beyond the truck. The vehicle sits short of the trailhead they planned. Weather explains erasure. It does not explain leaving critical instruments behind. Mechanical problem, stuck or failing. What we would expect. Hood up, chain out, shovel marks, brush stuffed under tires, a retreat to the planned trailhead or back down the road. Stove heat if they staged to wait. Doors secured against blowing snow. What we have, no repair posture, gear unused, doors unlocked, and the truck stopped mid-line rather than squared to extract. A methodical pair don't abandon remedies they packed for. Planned split-up to scout. What we would expect, maps in hand, a note in the cab, time heading, a rendezvous time. One hunter stays with vehicle while the other probes about 200 to 400 meters and returns if whiteout worsens. What we have, maps missing, yet the two most basic instruments remain in the cab. No cab note. Both appear to have left together or both were prevented from using the tools they always carry. Accidental discharge. The casing injury. What we would expect. Blood sign, fabric fibers, a stumble path, more than one cartridge case if there's a call response. A scramble back to the truck for heat transport. What we have, a single .30-06 casing under a pine 200 yards off. No blood, no drag, no second case. One piece of brass without injury signatures points to a signal jam clear or presence, not a proved wound. Animal encounter. What we would expect. Blood, hair, torn clothing, scattered gear, predation tracks in early drifts, later scavenger sign. What we have? Nothing that reads predation. In deep cold and wind, scent and sign disappear fast, but not all at once if there's violent contact. Voluntary walkout. Go get help. What we would expect. Maps carried, truck squared and locked, doors secured, a bearing written or verbalized to someone, some directional choice toward road or cabin. What we have? Doors left, truck offline, maps gone but instruments left, and no evidence of a bearing declared or followed. The logic breaks in the first meter. Third-party intercept. Poacher, work truck, passerby. What we would expect. Vehicle presence that can sit in weather without hazards. Fleet paint or industry residues if there's contact. A short, decisive contact window, about 3 to 15 minutes, where decisions are made before drifts seal the page. What we have. A truck stopped short, gear untouched, doors unlocked, maps missing, and one fresh-looking casing too near the vehicle for the route they'd planned. Details that harmonize with a brief contact rather than a slow problem. False lead, decisive fact, the twist. The cleanest story is the storm swallowed them. The decisive fact is the instrument contradiction. Maps missing while the compass and rangefinder sit in the cab. In a whiteout, experienced hunters do not trade the tools that keep you found for a paper sheet that gets you lost. Weather may be the stage, it is not the plot. Erosine limits 1972. No GPS, PLBs, or cell triangulation. Analog clocks drift 2 to 3 minutes. Snow at about 3 in hour destroys prints in about 10 to 20 minutes and mutes scent. Those limits widen doubt at the edges, but they do not invent a hood up, a blood trail, or a repair dig where none exists. Provisional read present, absent. Weather only, weak. Erasure yes, instrument logic no. Mechanical, not supported. No repair posture, gear idle. Split up scout, not supported. No note, maps instruments mismatch. Accidental discharge, not supported. Single brass, no injury sign. Animal, not supported. No predation field. Third-party contact near the truck. Rapid departure. Best fit to the curated cab, short stop, and lone casing. Working window. Minutes, not hours. Operationally, the scene compresses to about 3 to 15 minutes after the truck halts, enough to open doors, remove maps, make contact, or be made contact with, and move, before wind and 8-foot drifts, 2.4 meters, erase the page. Anything needing prolonged setup or noisy work does not fit. Two essential tools left staring at each other across a silent cab while paper maps vanish into the storm. Matrices cross out the ordinary. In two kitchens, receivers sit on hooks, and the second hand chews the gap where an 8 p.m. call was supposed to be. Block 3. Witnesses and contradictions. Road and access passes. What eyes actually saw and didn't. A county plow runs the Mac Lake stretch twice on the night the call is missed. First around 9:15 p.m., again about 10:05 p.m. The driver reports visibility 30 to 50 meters in squall sheets and notes no obvious vehicle nose out at the access on the first pass. On the return, he remembers a brief headlamp sweep reflecting off trunks south of the turn, then white again. His dash clock later proves a few minutes fast. Read together, the log doesn't prove presence, but it opens a narrow arrival band for the green pickup between those passes. Shots, echoes, and clocks that drift. A small deer camp off a side road hears 2 reports, maybe 3, after 9:30. A farmhouse farther east hears what might be 1 longhorn swallowed by wind close to 10. Winter does this. Sound carries, bends, dies. Wall clocks are analog and unsynced, drifting 2 to 3 minutes either way. None of these moments nails a map pin. Taken together, they live inside the corridor the road math already gives us. Near truck zone, signs of a short stop. A snowmobile owner sheltering his machine near the forest road recalls seeing cab light or a flashlight blink through trees in the low 10s. A quick wash of light, then dark. He can't swear it was the pickup. What he is sure of is how short it was. Seconds, not minutes. That matches a stop, decide, move profile, not camp or repair. Supply traces versus weather story. A store clerk in Grayling remembers Hal and Tom buying white gas and 2 topo sheets earlier in the day. Nothing remarkable. What matters is what the truck later shows. Topo sheets missing. Yet compass and rangefinder left. The clerk's clean memory adds weight to the contradiction already in the cab. They had paper in hand, but not the instruments a storm-savvy pair would ever abandon. Plow foreman's lane notes. The small jolt. The foreman's worksheet for that night records the wing pushed a fresh ridge across the Mac Lake approach on the second pass to keep the road open. If the green pickup arrived after the first pass and before or just after that second ridge, the driver would have met a new snow wall and a road that visually didn't match the map. A moment where a cautious team might stop short, step out, and make a fast decision. It doesn't prove a third party. It tightens the clock around the stop. The casing against the noise. Hunters all over heard shots in that weather. The single point 30-06 casing under a pine 200 yards from the truck does not fix which sound was this sound, but it does say someone worked a bolt near the access while the storm still allowed brass to sit visible before drift. It points to human presence in the small envelope where the plow's notes and the witness slivers overlap. Contradictions that matter. If this were whiteout plus experience, the men would have left with compass plus rangefinder. They did not. If this were mechanical, there would be hood up, chain out before retreat. There isn't. If this were camp, there would be stove heat and a squared truck. There aren't. What survives is minutes. A brief light in trees. A headlamp sweep off trunks. A single casing too near the truck and a plow lane rebuilt in between. All consistent with a short contact and departure, not hours of drift and wandering. Unified timeline. Minutes, not hours. About 8 p.m. on December 16th. The call home is missed. That's when alarm begins. Around 9:15, the first snowplow pass goes by. No clear sign of the truck nose out at the access, though visibility is brief and poor. Around 9:30 to 9:40, 2 reports are heard at a deer camp. The clock there is soft and not exact. About 9:55 to 10:10, the second plow pass comes through. A brief sweep of headlamps is noted, then the lane is re-ridged by drifting snow. In the low 10s, a quick glow from the cab. or a flashlight in the trees, lasting only seconds. From the first plow to the second is roughly 45 to 60 minutes. The actionable stop near the truck lives inside a narrow slice, about 3 to 15 minutes in that window. Working window, minutes, not hours. Operationally, the intersection of plow logs, witness slivers, and the brass sets a tight corridor. Arrival after the first pass, before around the second. Decision and movement inside a few minutes. Then the storm closes the page. A headlamp wash briefly painting trunks, then white again, and the mute certainty of a single casing under a pine. Numbers in a foreman's log and arrows on a map. In 2 houses, a phone sits on the hook over a quiet kitchen where everyone already knows what time it should be. Block 4. Technicals and breakthrough. Reopen kit. Clean protocol. Items are unsealed one by one under a hood. Driver's door pull and column bezel. Gear selector stock. Glove box latch and liner seam. Hal's rangefinder and Tom's compass, both found in the cab. The .30-06 casing from under the pine, and a tiny paint flake taped years ago from the hood's leading edge. Fresh gloves per item. Forceps swapped between lifts. Bench and tool pre-post swabs logged. Reagent blanks ride every batch. Eliminations first. Immediate family. The deputy who inventoried the cab. Plow driver foreman. The early search captain. And the tow operator. Low template recovery. Where it stalled. qPCR returns sub-nanogram yields across most touchpoints. Mini STR from the door pull and rangefinder produces mixed, stutter-prone partials. Insufficient for a database hit and not probative alone. Archival latents recover a fatty palm smear on the hood lip that, in 1972, was non-value. Modern VMD reveals ridge flow consistent with an adult male palm placement against the open hood edge. Controls remain clean. The classic playbook stalls for power, not process. Microtrace, the non-DNA turn. Door pull column bezel, residues. GCMS flags diesel range hydrocarbons, C10 to C20, with a lithium soap thickened grease note. Shop equipment service, not just cabin skin oils. Glove box liner seam, fibers. PLM-SEM shows cotton duck microfibers with a paraffin wax dressing, the signature of waxed work jackets common among road yard crews, not typical of the pair's denim and wool kit. Hood lip, paint transfer. SEMEDS identifies chromate pigmented alkyd enamel with yellow iron oxide lead molybdate, a late 60s, early 70s fleet color system uncommon on passenger cars, common on county service trucks and small equipment. Rangefinder knurl, particulate, a faint road salt halite crystal ensemble embedded under surface lint, consistent with gloved handling outdoors near the road, not only by its owner in camp. None of these traits is source unique. Viewed together, they steer away from 2 hunters alone and toward contact with a fleet-adjacent grease-salt environment near the access. Low-input SNP library. The breakthrough. The lab composites 2 highest-yield extracts, driver's door pull plus rangefinder knurl, and builds a low-input SNP library. Fragment distribution centers around 120 to 150 base pairs. Post-QC call rate lands around 92 to 94%. Mixture assessment supports a single-source male distinct from all eliminations. Bench blanks and reagent controls remain negative. STR could not stand. SNPs succeed. We now have a foreign touch DNA profile tied directly to enter-operate control points and to an instrument that should have been on person in a whiteout. Ballistics note, bounded. The .30-06 casing is scanned for breech face ejector marks and cataloged for later comparison. No weapon is in evidence today. The casing remains a bridgeable item should a suspect rifle emerge after identification. FGG guardrails. Lead, not proof. Uploads are limited to opt-in law enforcement portals. An audit packet accompanies the dataset. Case type, consent basis, file hashes, timestamps, and named access roles. No non-consenting repositories. Every query view export is logged. Output is treated strictly as an investigative lead, never probable cause. Tree build and minutes filter. Cousin matches in the 2C to 3C band converge on a northern Michigan line with early 70s anchors in Crawford, Roscommon, Alcona. Public obits and vital records scaffold the MRCA. Age sex gates narrow to males mid-20s to mid-40s in 1972. A minutes-based geography filter trims further. Routine after-hours presence at or near Mac Lake access in the plow pass window, after the first, before around the second. Plausible fleet exposure, county road bridge support, timber hall staging, sign utility subcontractor. The fleet enamel plus grease plus wax duck fiber trio weights candidates with yard shop adjacency rather than ordinary motorists. Shortlist, less than or equal to 3. After pruning out-of-region/wrong age branches, pedigree plus microtrace plus timing yield a shortlist of 2 to 3 men whose roles naturally intersect the access during the storm. For example, a county road bridge helper tasked with night checks, a timber hall driver staging equipment, or a sign utility subcontractor clearing gear before the next day's weather. Each entry is tabled with MRCA link, 1972 employer assignment, why the plow pass minutes fit, and what records can probe it, yard sheets, fuel chits, work tickets. Cross-checks against innocent transfer. The foreign SNP profile repeats across independent lifts, door pole and rangefinder, not a one-surface fluke. All eliminations are negative. Chain of custody shows continuous seals on door column swabs, instrument packets, casing, and paint flake. Crucially, fleet enamel, grease salt residues, and wax duck fibers concentrate on hand use points, door, bezel, instrument knurl, rather than on bed gear or cabin paper, which is hard to square with casual store camp transfer. Deliverable and confirmation plan. Pedigree tree with MRCA path and match notes. Shortlist, less than or equal to 3, with minutes and access rationale tied to the plow window. Audit packet. Hashes, consent, access log. Confirmation plan. Quiet surveillance. Lawful discard collection. STR comparison to the foreign profile. And, if probative, a court-authorized confirmatory buckle. FGG points. The discard, STR, buckle, proves. Working window. Application. Surveillance prioritizes candidates who can be at the access after the first plow pass and before around the second, with about 3 to 15 minutes of plausible dwell without hazards, exactly the interval indicated by witness slivers, lane notes, and the single casing. A grain of road salt caught in the knurl of a tool that should never have left a hunter's hand. A digital tree fills with blue boxes and thin lines. 2 kitchen tables hold cooling coffee and a coiled phone cord that still knows the weight of an 8 p.m. call. Block 5. Resolution and arrest. Lead classic workflow. Forensic genealogy stays a lead, not proof. Investigators move to confirmation. Quiet surveillance on the shortlist from Block 4. Men with fleet exposure who could be at Mac Lake access after the first plow pass and before around the second, with about 3 to 15 minutes of plausible dwell. A lawful discard is collected when the subject finishes a pre-work coffee, an empty paper cup dropped in an outdoor bin. The lab develops a STR profile from that discard and compares it to the foreign touch DNA recovered independently from the driver's door pull and the rangefinder knurl. The comparison supports common source. After legal review, a court-authorized confirmatory buckle swab follows. The second test reproduces the profile without mixture flags. Match statistics, plain language. The confirmatory STR comparison reports RMP less than 1 times 10 to the power of 12 and LR greater than 10 to the power of 9 in favor of the same individual as the foreign contributor. Bench negatives and reagent blanks remain clean. All eliminations, family, deputy who inventoried the cab, plow driver foreman, early search captain, tow operator, are non-matching. Chain of custody for the door column swabs, instrument packets, casing, and paint flake is continuous. Corroboration. Access, opportunity, route logic. Yard sheets from winter 1972 place the subject as a timber hall staging driver with routine night positioning along forest approaches during storms. His route timing can put him at the Mac Lake turn between the plow passes, and his truck class carries the chromate pigmented alkyd fleet enamel seen as a yellow lead molybdate microtransfer on the hood lip. Residues on hand use points, diesel range hydrocarbons, and lithium soap grease fit shopyard handling. Wax cotton duck fibers in the glove box seam match the outerwear typical of road yard crews. The halite crystals embedded on the rangefinder knurl are consistent with gloved outdoor handling near salted lanes. Witness slivers fold in. A brief headlamp wash against trunks near the access. A short glow in the trees, and the single .30-06 casing visible before drift, all inside the minute scale window. The minutes say he could be there. The microtrace says he belonged to that environment. The DNA says he touched what should not have been touched. The twist. Familiar, not foreign. He was not a phantom off the highway. He was the timber staging driver locals waved past in storms. The man who knew the roads. Familiar enough that a green pickup stopped short at a snow wall didn't read as danger. Only minute windows plus microtrace plus modern profile stitched him to the quiet contact that pulled two experienced hunters off their plan. Arrest. Time, place, coherence. At 6:11 a.m., officers contact the subject at an I-75 highway rest stop as he steps from his cab with a dented thermos. The timing avoids a residential scene, matches his dawn run, and cleanly supports the warrant plan. Vehicle and outer garments in plain view. Any. Interior search under separate authority. He looks at the uniforms, one quiet beat, and for the first time, he doesn't read as the hall guy. He reads like a stranger. The arrest is without incident. Charging framework. 3 pillars. Identification. STR match from lawful discard, replicated by court-authorized buckle. Reported with conservative statistics. Access opportunity. Documented staging work placing him at Mac Lake access inside the plow pass window with 3 to 15 minutes of dwell. Corroboration. Scene logic. No repair posture. Curated cab. Class traits. Fleet enamel. Diesel grease. Waxed duck fiber. Halite on instrument. Knurl. On door rangefinder contact points. Negative eliminations. Continuous custody. FGG is cited only as an investigative lead. Proof comes from the discard. STR. Buckle sequence. If a rifle is later seized, the archived .30-06 casing remains available for breech face ejector comparison. Technical closeout. What was tested? Why sufficient? Tested. Driver's door pull and rangefinder knurl. Primary touch DNA. Column bezel, gear stock. Supportive negatives. Paint flake. Class evidence. .30-06 casing ballistics reference. Plus discard cup and confirmatory buckle. qPCR guided low input handling. STR confirmation met reporting thresholds. Mixture assessment indicated a single source male. All controls were negative. Sufficiency rests on independent replication. The minute scale time distance fit, and non-overlapping controls that close off innocent transfer and bench carryover. Steam unwinds from a metal cup in blue morning light, while a match report clicks into a tray. Warrants, seals, signatures. 2 kitchens hold cooled coffee,